But first, while Britain was once famously described as a nation of shopkeepers by Napoleon, nowadays it might be more accurate to describe us as a nation of shopaholics. It's a habit that began in earnest in the late 19th century with the birth of the department store. Now we have an 8-part BBC costume drama set in Britain's very first fictional department store, The Paradise, which brings the glory of Victorian shopping to life.
Catherine, you told me this was a shop. This isn't a shop. This is a kind of heaven.
Well, you must spoil yourself a little, Jocelyn. And if you won't, then I will.
I don't know where to start.
Perhaps I could suggest, Mum, that you start with gloves. No, that's not as silly as it sounds. Once your hands feel the pleasure of comfort and elegance, you shall attack the rest of the store, bounding in confidence.
Now, to find out the real story of how Britain's department stores came to be, please welcome historian Ruth Cowen, department store archivist Judy Faraday, and starring as perhaps the first ever shopaholic we saw there in tonight's episode of The Paradise, Olivia Hallinan. Good to see you. Well, this is your set. You are in your workplace. It's lovely to see you in a nice costume. Like Rise to Candlefield, we got used to seeing you in...
I know! I was so excited, because the whole way through Rise for about 4 years, I was gazing at all the lovely costumes. And in this, I'd say, I get the best costumes.
You do.
I couldn't get over it. It was great.
Well, we don't see you until tonight, so... No. But you are a shopaholic in this account.
I am. She spends a lot of money, and she spends very erratically. Because she is hiding something. But I can't tell you what she's hiding. You have to tune in.
Have you enjoyed it, going from, you know, one quite long-running drama to another? Yeah. I
mean, 4 years on Rise was the best experience ever, but going into a show that characters had already begun that journey and coming in as a very different character was brilliant, because I'm a real lady. Yes, she couldn't be more different from Laura.
Let's talk to the people who know exactly what's behind all this. Ruth, you're a historian of this kind of thing. Tell us how the department store began and what it was really like in there. Is this accurate, The Paradise?
Actually, I'm quite impressed. It is fairly accurate, particularly about the working conditions of the girls who all lived in the store, and if, as we saw in the last episode, somebody lost her job, she also lost her home, therefore, and was just one step away from destitution. Oh. Certainly in the provinces as well.
But they lived in the store then, as well as working in there?
Yeah. Absolutely. Right for about 50, 60 years. That was the norm.
Long working hours?
Extremely. 80+ hours a week. And that was when the shop was open. You know, what didn't help was, of course, gaslighting, which was fairly new in this period, because it meant that the shoppers could expand their shopping hours into the evenings.
So they got even less time off.
Yes.
Jenny, you're archivist for John Lewis.
Yeah.
So when did John Lewis's stores come into being, the big ones?
Well, the first shop on Oxford Street opened in 1864, so it's nearly 150 years ago that we opened up there. And our shop started off as a small draper's shop, as most of them did, and has gradually expanded into the sort of big multinational chain that we've got now.
This driving outfit over there, is that what your delivery men wore in there?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's rather sweet, isn't it? It's very heavy, very big jacket for the man to wear, but it was very cold out on those delivery runs, you know, in the 1960s.
Yeah.
They didn't have very nice heated vans the way that they probably do today. So
going back to the earlier days, Olivia, you think your characters were aware of what went on in the background? Would you have had any idea about how hard they worked?
Yeah, I think, obviously, a lady of my standing, Jocelyn, in The Paradise, she wouldn't have really thought about the effort that gone into everything, but...
Did the classes meet? Did the boss of the shop ever meet his underlings?
Not very much. I don't think that little bit's terribly realistic. What is realistic is that you weren't allowed to lean, you had to stand upright, even through 80 hours a week. There was a really strict rule, no sitting down on the job, no lean, and all the girls on the shop floor...
and the effort they make, each customer that comes in, it's like a rigorous process. They know exactly how to get them to buy the items.
What was if we look, Jo, what was the attraction then? What had we had immediately before these big stores came in the mid-Victorian period?
Well, they were very small, little drapery businesses. But gradually, as people became able to buy more things, then it was easy to make the stores bigger, to supply that demand that people were coming into the shops. And they wanted lots of nice, pretty things, the sort of things you can see there, which they hadn't been able to buy before.
So this is the first time, Ruth, then, they sort of had access to things like this?
Absolutely, because it was the Industrial Revolution, mass production, mass manufacturing for the first time, and the Victorians, as we know, loved to stuff their houses with, you know, rugs and, you know, crockery and trinkets and flowers and huge vases. And, you know, whenever you see pictures of Victorian interiors, they just loved stuff.
So this is because the money and the stuff had not actually been available before then. That's why Victorian houses were so crammed with things.
Yeah. Because before that, things were made by artisans before mass production. And so, of course, they were very expensive. But you've got a growing middle class with disposable income for the first time. And what helped the department stores particularly was that you also had the railways coming in really, really quickly. And so for the first time, women could safely travel into cities to go shopping. And this was totally new.
It was a new experience.
Yeah, the
Such
thing
a
is,
liberating
it's turned on its head now, isn't it? Because most people... Do you shop online, Olivia? Or is that...
Do you know what? I've only just begun shopping online because I like the whole experience. A bit like, it hasn't changed since back then. I go into a department store and it's the magic of it. And just, even if I don't buy things, I'll stroke the designer handbags.
Do you know, I like sometimes, and I don't, not I buy much in there, walking through the perfume department.
Oh, I love that.
It's the lighting and the
myself every time I walk past a department store
and
without fail.
you don't get that online, do you?
No,
but the smaller ones are going under. The other day, Alders in Croydon's just closed.
I think there's a big distinction between the family-run independents in regional areas that can't compete with these huge out-of-town developments like, is it Meadowhall and the
Sheffield,
because people want to take their
Blue
cars.
Water, all these things.
That's right.
Westfield that are cropping up now in Stratford.
That's right.
Two
But
Westfields,
John Lewis and the sort of luxury end, Selfridges, Harrods, they're really bucking the trend by being very canny about it and becoming very designer-led and having exclusive brands to them and making the experience important, which it was originally.
What about John Lewis? Because you're managing to keep going with Peter Jones.
Well, we're not just looking at retailing in the shops, but we're also matching that up because some people don't want to go shopping. And so we're able to offer them shopping online if they want it, that sort of thing. So there's lots of different ways that you can go shopping these days, which is so different. But I think it is this shopping experience that keeps bringing people back to the shops time and time again.
And of course, there are a lot of people who think that when it comes to department stores, all I have to say, I hope you can react to this because I haven't warned you about this. Miss Hallinan, are you free? And you're meant to say, you're too young. I'm free. John Inman has a lot to answer for. We wish you well in the paradise. Fun to be in. You're enjoying doing
Great fun, great fun. Yeah,
a long
great
way
team.
via these two ladies and their industry. Paradise continue in reality today. My thanks to Ruth Cowen, Judy Faraday, and of course Olivia Hallinan, who is free. Thank you very much. After the break, I'll be joined by Jack Ellis and Paula Wilcox from a new stage adaptation of Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. Plus, Brian May joins me to talk about the controversial Badger Cull. We'll be back in a moment.